Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. It's always good to be in Las Vegas. You know, it's the place where we launched our first championship game. It's where we have the two-time repeat champion. So there is something very special about Vegas. And I think that's why we used it for the setting for our meetings, which we had today and are having over today and tomorrow with ownership and with our head coaches. And I want to begin by saying I kind of wanted to connect the dots from where we left off at the end of last season to where we are today. You know, when this league was started, it was created to build an exciting brand of alternative football in markets that didn't have NFL football. And it was to showcase talented football players that were not getting opportunities on NFL teams. And it was giving to fans affordable football who were disenfranchised from NFL teams, didn't have them in their markets, and wanted to have a market for themselves. And we asked our owners to commit $25 million each over the first 3 years to see this through. And the revenue stream that we anticipated getting from this was going to come from a couple of sources. We were going to sell teams. Initially we started with 4 teams. We wanted to go to 6 and then to 8 teams. And we thought that by selling franchises, that would add revenue streams that would support us through the first 3 years. And that at some point thereafter, our intention was obviously be able to garner a television contract. And in professional sports leagues, your survivability is always intertwined at some point to a television rights fee contract. And that's really what the objective in the league is. So how do you do that? You play great football, you fill your stadiums. So the first year we beta tested it by having teams all stay in Casa Grande, Arizona, where the city built a $30 million facility for us. And it was an ideal opportunity for us to really grow the product. Because if we didn't have a product, we weren't going to have a league. We could have done exactly what the XFL did, spent a lot of money on pizzazz and marketing, fancy coaches and big name people, but then not put a good product out. So we sacrificed being in the markets, and we also tested some of the NFL markets just to make sure that our view that being in non-NFL markets was the most important and proper thing to do. What we learned from the first year was that by not being in the markets, it was a one-off event. It was impossible for fans to really connect with you. And while we knew that that was a risk we were taking, the budget that we had for the first year didn't allow for us to replicate individual marketing and PR and all the different facets that have to go on in an organization at each individual team. But we did put on good football. And at the end of the first season, people looked at it and said, you know what, this is good football. They also recognized the fact that 50 players went up and joined National Football League rosters, which spoke again to the quality of the talent. They also looked at the fact that we could play during the fall, which most of the other leagues had. They had been spring leagues that had played, but our league was able to play in the fall. And people thought there's already saturation with college, there's already saturation with NFL, why would people tune in to watch a UFL game? And I think what we proved, even in our first year, that there was reason to watch our league in the first year because it was good football. It didn't conflict with high school football the way some people would have thought. And we were able to show that there was a reason for this league to come back. So in the second season, we lost about $8 million per team that year. It was about $2 million more per team than we thought it would be, but we didn't know what the number was, truthfully. We guessed at a lot of estimations of what attendance would be, what travel would be, and those type of things. So we came into the second season with 5 teams. Our expectation was to get 6, but we didn't have the Virginia team ready with their investor group to go at the time that we thought it made sense to start. So we went from 4 teams to 5 teams in 2010, but significantly put the teams in the market. And that was important for us because we thought that would be a key to long-term survivability of the teams and also to create that real fan interest. And I think we made incremental progress on that. We obviously saw attendance increase. We continued with our 2 television partners with Versus and HDNet. We saw increases in our television audiences. We also saw an additional 50 players go join NFL rosters during the second year. Again, $9 or $10 million of losses per team in that year. Now, each of our owners were committed to the first 2 years and signed documents and committed themselves to funding the first 2 years. But they knew there was going to be about a cost of about $25 million per team to fund this league for the first 3 years. But they all had a window to say, if this isn't going in the right direction after 2 years, we want to make sure we're not putting good money after bad. And if we're going to put money into this league for year 3, we're not going to do it with the hope that year 3 works out so that we can have a year 4. We've got to put a strategy in place that makes year 3, year 4, and year 5 viable. So for the last month and a half after the season ended, we spent a lot of time with our ownership groups going through that analysis and making a determination on whether or not we could support this league, not just for 2011, but for 2012 and 2013. Because if we couldn't, it didn't make sense to roll the dice for 1 year. So how would we do that if, because of the sluggish economy, we still weren't seeing investment dollars coming in for new franchises, and television was not yet right in the local markets or on a national level? So we went back to 5 teams for this year. And the strategy that we concluded was, let's do what we did last year. Let's do it a little bit better. Let's manage our expenses in a way that allows us to sustain losses again this year, but not quite at the level that we had in 2010, with the expectation that we'll move a lot closer to break even in 2012 and 2013. And over that time frame, it's our full expectation, and we have absolute confidence, that we're going to move towards a television rights fee payment. And we have already begun discussions with networks about broadcasting our games over the air and not just on cable. So for us, the confidence is there that we're on the plan, that we're doing the things that we thought we wanted to do, and that now, and really only recently, have we gotten through all of the scrubbing of our financials to make the decision that we are determinedly going forward in 2011, 2012, and 2013, with the expectation that there are going to be losses, and significant losses this year. Now, most of you know that when we finished the season, we had about $6 million in payables that were left to pay over from our markets. It was about $1 million per market. And what did it come from? It came from costs that were not met by not selling franchises, costs that were not met from new revenue streams coming in, costs that were met not from any television money or IPOs or any of the other functions that we thought might have occurred. And we had a similar situation in 2009, almost the same exact amount that carried over into the year. But what stalled the progress on paying those bills off at the end of last year was, candidly, we first had to make a determination, were we going to have a 2011 or not? Well, the good news is we are going to have a 2011. And you'll hear from Bill Hambrick, the owner of the league and founder of the league, and a representative of the owners. We are going to pay those bills off, and that's going to be happening over the next 2 weeks. And that we are going to be playing this season with 5 teams. And that we have a plan that really gives us confidence that some of the revenue streams that we think are viable are looking more realistic. Now, the NFL lockout, if that happens, it's icing on the cake. But the business model that we have in place is sustainable so that we can afford, without any new revenue streams coming in, to operate this league in 2011. And it took us a while to get commitment from our ownership. We had to show a viable plan. We had to show that the financial capacity was there. And I think, credibly, our owners stood up and said, you're on the business plan, you're on the mission, you're making the right kind of moves, it looks viable to us, and we will agree to go forward. So today's announcement is, it took a while to get there. And in this economy, that's probably not normal, okay? Because it's a tough economic time. And these owners are still going to lose about $7 million per team this year. But they're willing to do that because they still see the vision. Now, we might get lucky. We might see some new revenue streams come in. We're not going to raise ticket prices to $50 a ticket. What works about this league is that it reaches the average Joe, that it reaches the common person on the street who can't afford to go to games at the National Football League level, that can't afford to go to games at their colleges where they charge premium seat licenses, and that they can still see great quality football. And what we all believe in is the fact that we've proven that an alternative league can work and has worked. And when we see the players that go up and earn starting jobs on NFL teams, it lets us know that we do have the right mission.